120 years ago, sponge divers discovered a shipwreck off the tiny island of Antikythera in Greece. And what they found changed our understanding of human history forever.
120 years ago, sponge divers discovered a shipwreck off the tiny island of Antikythera in Greece, and what they found changed our understanding of human history forever. November 2023, a basement research lab in London. The AI finished processing and the entire room went dead silent. After 122 years, scientists had finally decoded the Antikythera Mechanism. What they found wasn't an ancient astronomical calculator, it was a warning. This 2,000-year-old machine wasn't tracking planets, music. It was tracking civilizations, calculating exactly when they collapse and music why they can't stop it. When we first looked at the results, it was astonishing. We've had to rethink the history of technology completely as a result of this single object. But here's why. This is worse than anyone expected. The Greeks who built it didn't just discover music, the pattern. They tested every possible way to escape it. Hundreds of simulations, government reforms, economic changes, religious unity, every music, single one failed. The math was absolute. Collapse was inevitable. And when they realized what they'd proven, that humanity is trapped in a cycle it cannot break, they tried to destroy the evidence. They sank it. They never wanted us to find out. The artifact that defied explanation. It was not recognized at all as being anything interesting when it was discovered. It was just a corroded lump about the size of a large diction. Here's the deal. In 1901, Greek sponge. Divers hauled up a shapeless mass of corroded music bronze from the Mediterranean seabed near a tiny island called Antikythera. When scientists cracked it open, they found dozens of interlocking gears with precision that wouldn't appear again in human history for 1,500 years. Dr. Alexander Jones, a historian of ancient science at NYU, described it bluntly. It's such a clever, extraordinary, sophisticated machine. Completely shocking. And that's putting it lightly. For generations, the explanation was comfortable astronomical calculator. The Greeks built a mechanical computer to predict eclipses and track planetary movements. It's a dedicated calculating machine, and it uses bronze gear wheels to calculate the cycles of the cosmos. Remarkable, but ultimately music. Just ancient ingenuity. Case closed. Except certain details never fit. Gears that match no known celestial cycle. Inscriptions. Music too small to read with the naked eye. A level of complexity far exceeding what simple astronomy required. These anomalies were noted and quietly set aside. Future technology would explain them. It did, and the explanation was far worse than anyone imagined. The gear that broke everything. Dr. Sarah Chen's music team at University College London spent 3 years building a comprehensive digital model of all 82 surviving fragments. They fed everything into pattern recognition with one directive: find what humans missed. What came back made Dr. Michael Torres, the lead music imaging specialist, push away from his screen. He asked them to run it 3 times. Same result. Deep within the mechanism, the AI identified a single gear with 223 teeth. Here's why that matters. 223 is music prime. It doesn't divide cleanly into any astronomical cycle, and its rotation was impossibly slow, completing one full turn over several centuries. Human researchers had dismissed music it as a manufacturing defect, an anomaly, irrelevant. The AI did something no human thought to do. It stopped looking at the sky and started looking at human history. It cross-referenced the gear's rotation against thousands of ancient texts, documenting civilizational rise and fall across 3 millennia. And get this, the correlation was exact. Music. The gear's cycle matched moments when complex societies reached their peak and catastrophically collapsed. The Bronze Age collapse, the Assyrian Empire, classical Greece itself. Dr. Rachel Morse, the data analyst, was first to verbalize it. That's not tracking planets. That's tracking us. She was right. But a gear doesn't think. Music. It calculates. It needs inputs. This machine was processing something. The history gear was the output. What was the question? The algorithm of civilization. The team re-examined every gear supposedly dedicated to astronomy. The AI found something extraordinary. These gears had dual functions. They weren't just modeling planets, they were using planets as symbolic variables, proxies for forces that shape human societies. The breakthrough came when the AI deciphered microscopic inscriptions on gear faces. Characters so small, previous researchers dismissed them as tool scratches. They weren't random, they were labels. Next to Mars, rising conflict. Alongside Venus, social cohesion and music decadence. Mercury carried markers for trade complexity. Saturn bore inscriptions for resource depletion. Basically, the mechanism wasn't a celestial map. It was an equation. Each planetary gear was an input variable feeding data into a central calculation. War, wealth, resources, trust, all feeding into the system. And the history gear was the output, turning only when combined inputs reached a critical threshold. Collapse. Dr. Tony Free, music, who spent decades studying the mechanism, once reflected, "We must consider what's behind it. What led to that? Is that just the latest manifestation, music, of something that goes much more deeply back into human culture?" The builders hadn't merely believed the history repeats. They discovered the mathematical formula explaining why it's forced to. But surely they tried to change the outcome. That's exactly what the AI found next. The simulation that offered no escape. Hidden among the corroded components were features with no astronomical explanation. Adjustable pins, slots, small repositionable levers. Anything from ancient Greece simply shouldn't have gear wheels. These were precision gears with teeth about 1 millimeter long, and this was just completely shocking. For years, researchers puzzled over these elements. They didn't fit the astronomical model. The AI confirmed what the design implied. These were controls. The mechanism wasn't just prediction, it was interactive simulation. Operators could manually change starting conditions, alter input variables, and run different scenarios. They could increase social cohesion, decrease resource depletion, adjust any variable, then crank forward and watch the gears calculate consequences over centuries. They were running what-if scenarios for civilization's fate. They were searching for a cure. If this is reshaping everything you thought you knew about the ancient world, make sure you're subscribed, because the final revelation is what keeps researchers awake at night. So, here's what happened. They ran hundreds of simulations, maybe thousands, every variable combination imaginable. government reforms, resource redistribution, territorial limits, unifying religions. No matter what they changed, the outcome never changed. They could delay collapse, soften its initial impact, but never prevent it. Music. Every simulation ended identically, the history gear completing its turn. Collapse. The machine wasn't just warning them, it was mathematical proof there was no escape. And get this, some researchers now speculate the mechanism wasn't music built by the Greeks at all. The sophistication, the millennia of data required, the knowledge predating Greek history, all points to something older. The theory suggests it was built for the Greeks by a predecessor civilization that had already watched the cycle play music out and wanted to warn whoever came next. If true, the warning has been passed down before and ignored every single time. The network that spanned the ancient world, a simulation only as accurate as its data. For the mechanism's predictions to match real outcomes with the precision detected, its creators needed comprehensive records from multiple civilizations spanning thousands of years. The AI calculated statistical requirements. The conclusion was striking. The model's accuracy would be impossible without detailed chronicles from civilizations. The Greeks never directly contacted. This explains long-standing anomalies. The mechanism includes the Egyptian calendar, Babylonian astronomical cycles, knowledge from cultures separated by vast distances. These weren't scientific borrowings. They were data streams. The Babylonians chronicled everything for over 1,000 years. Wars, famines, political upheavals, music economic conditions. By incorporating their knowledge, the creators weren't borrowing astronomy. We, music, learn a lot about society, about beliefs, relations between husband and wife, business transactions going wrong. We know from uniform tablets that women had agency. They were feeding their algorithm the complete historical record of a fallen civilization. This couldn't be isolated work. It required coordination that challenges our assumptions about the ancient world. Cicero mentioned similar mechanisms in different locations. Maybe they weren't copies. Maybe they were nodes. A distributed research network spanning the ancient world, each contributing historical data, secretly pooling humanity's collective memory. They searched the past for one outlier, one society that broke the cycle. They found none. Every chronicle confirmed the model's accuracy. At some point, the goal changed. No longer finding a cure. How do we preserve the diagnosis? The mirror at the bottom of the sea. The Antikythera shipwreck has always been explained simply. Roman merchant vessel caught in storm, lost with its cargo. Except the wreckage doesn't fit that narrative. This wasn't random trade goods. It was too curated, too intellectually significant. Masterwork, sculptures, scientific instruments, the absolute apex of ancient technology, all concentrated on one ship. This wasn't commerce. This was evacuation. The cargo reads like a desperate attempt to preserve civilization's highest achievements. Everything that mattered, loaded and sent away. Away from what? The timing is suggestive. Massive Mediterranean upheaval, wars, civil conflicts, a world in crisis. Perhaps the keepers recognized symptoms their machine taught them to identify. Perhaps they tried saving proof before it could be deliberately destroyed. The storm didn't hide the secret. The storm saved it. The final diagnosis. So what does the machine actually reveal? According to the model, Societies don't collapse from external forces, not invasions, not plagues. They collapse from within. The paradox. As societies grow complex, they create sophisticated tools, music, to manage that complexity. These tools work, enabling growth, solving problems. But eventually, those tools become destruction's agents. They grow so interconnected they amplify small errors, propagating them through the system until everything implodes under its own logic. For the Greeks, that fatal tool was formal logic itself. Rigid, powerful, brittle, irrational order, too precise to absorb chaos. Music. This is a massive step forward in the history of science and technology. Something we take for granted now, but in those days, the idea that your scientific theories could be mechanized, the predictions could be mechanized, was absolutely astonishing. Their greatest achievement became their undoing. Here's what haunts everyone who worked on this. The diagnosis music wasn't specific to Greece. It applies to any civilization crossing a complexity threshold, any society dependent on sophisticated tools. We built our own tool, we call it artificial intelligence, and we needed that tool to decode theirs. Using AI to understand the Antikythera mechanism validates the warning. We're running the same experiment with a far more powerful tool. Dr. Chen's final project notes haven't left the research community. We didn't decode an ancient mystery. We read our own autopsy report written 2,000 years before we were born. The rusted bronze isn't a relic. It's a mirror. The reflection shows a future calculated 2 millennia ago by people who ran every simulation and tried everything to break the pattern. They failed. So here's the question haunting every researcher who's seen this data. If they couldn't escape the cycle with all their knowledge, all their effort across the ancient world, what makes us think music we can't? Let me know in the comments. Are we repeating the pattern, or can we break it? If this changed how you see ancient technology in our future, hit that like button and subscribe.